Facebook. So we're never actually offline.
Oh, yeah,
We're streaming,
you mentioned
streaming on, but we're now up. We weren't up for the first segment. Hi, Facebook. Okay, here we go. Oh, where'd all my articles? Hey, I need articles. I don't know where they went.
You need articles. Well,
Where
you're
do
on. Just start talking right now.
Welcome to the Peak News. I'm Chaim Goldman. Welcome back. This is our headline segment here on Government and Politics Tuesday. And we're starting off this segment. We have Todd Watkins, retired Border Patrol agent. We're going to be talking about the border and other issues regarding that. But we wanted to start off with something that's really big and came to a head last week. You're probably aware that with ballot petitions that happened in November, that there were two competing ballot provisions here in Colorado Springs, 2D and 300. One in order to allow recreational marijuana, one to ban it. The one 300 won. But the city council sought to put restrictions on it, as well as potentially putting a new ballot initiative on for the elections coming up this spring, the city council elections this spring. But a judge was overseeing the ballot wording, and first decided that it needed to be reworded, and then decided that there wasn't time and it didn't make the ballot. And so after all of this controversy throughout the election and for months over the results, it's now looking that we will have legalized recreational marijuana being sold out of existing medical marijuana shops in Colorado Springs. And we're bringing on the program now Luther Bono. He'll pronounce. Luther, you there? Do you hear me? Am I pronouncing your last name correctly? Bono. He's a co-owner of Altitude Organic Medicine Stores in Colorado Springs, and he's been one of the major proponents throughout. So, Luther, how are you feeling about this judge's ruling? Well, so what do you say to those in Colorado Springs, and we're looking at some, I believe, 90 existing shops that will now have the ability to apply to sell recreational, that they don't care that the prices are cheaper. In fact, they want to discourage this. They see this as being a social problem, that it is going to bring, more people that are coming to the Springs for that lifestyle and crime and things. I know that there's been an argument against it, but now that you won, how do we monitor that the downside that is feared doesn't come to pass? Just because there's money, tax money coming in, doesn't mean that society is not going to have the problems. So what do you say to those people? well, Luther, we need to finish up. We're out of time. I'm just going to say we'll be checking back, and we would hope that those who were proponents of this will follow through and be concerned not just about the money, but about the potential impact that those who voted against it were concerned about. So as a community, we're now going to need to institute this. But thank you for being on the peak. Appreciate it. Okay. Next, as we're talking the border, and we have Todd Watkins, former Border Patrol agent, Christine Noam, who is now the head of National Intelligence.
She's the Secretary of Homeland Security.
Secretary of Homeland Security. So these appointments are coming so quick.
Tulsi Gabbard is the
right. There we go.
DNI.
There we go. She just put out a public service announcement, which you can go online and see, telling immigrants, don't even think about it if you're going to come in here illegal. What do you think about this? Todd, you were a Border Patrol agent for 24 years.
24 years.
The marketing of what's going on right now.
Never saw and mind you, when I started off we were under Department of Justice, now Homeland Security, but never saw either of those, large enterprise level government organizations say anything publicly like that, saying if you're here illegally, you should leave. This is a great first step to something I'm sure that we're going to talk about later of how do we start to undo the problem that was created, that we've now inherited after 4 years. So that's perfect. I hope that they would do something like that, encourage those who came here illegally, give them kind of a grace period. Leave now, you can come and you'll have a chance to come back lawfully, because there is generally a moratorium on application to come back once you've been in illegally.
Okay, and in the video it says, if you come in illegally, that's going to be it. You're never going to be allowed to come back again. So not this catch and release that we've been used to. So last article: Colorado GOP sues Republicans who tried to oust Dave Williams from state chair position. And I'm sorry about the news, but I always love when our guest is in the news. And as it turns out, if you know anything about what's been the dysfunctional Republican Party and all the infighting, that there was sort of a second Republican Party that ousted Dave Williams. It turned out it wasn't according to the bylaws, and judges said that it wasn't, and reinstated them as the official Republican Party of the state. But there are 6 people who are waiting, supposedly are going to be served papers, and one of them is Todd Watkins from this other Republican Party. Todd, I know that this is going to be a legal issue, so you're going to be careful on this, and we don't even have much time, but what's your statement as far as what happened and this potential of a lawsuit?
Well, first of all, I'm going to push back on the second Republican Party, and that a judge said we didn't follow the bylaws and then reinstated. No, that's not what happened at all. The judge offered a judicial opinion about the votes necessary to remove the Chairman Williams. We followed the bylaws exactly to get to that point, but the judge read it that we needed more votes, so we didn't have the votes to do it.
Okay, thank you for correcting that, because that's what I got out of the press, and it's not being reported accurately.
I know that.
Okay, well, thank you for setting the record straight. That's what we try to do here, and I guess will let us know if this lawsuit actually comes to pass. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. We're talking about the border and its impact on our local region. When we come back, Todd Watkins is going to be talking about Border 101. Border Patrol 101. Anyway.
No, it's probably
Border
better
101?
Border 101 is
You want to do that?
Yeah.
This Border 101?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, he took an extra minute on the call and it threw off my whole, the call in. That's why I hate call-ins, because you can't go.
Right.
There's more, we don't wanna have him back and stuff.
I understand, no, I'm saying he just took a minute longer of our headline segment than I wanted, so I didn't have enough time.
Okay, cool. And this is the one that has the on the border bumper, right?
On the border bumper, yeah. Okay, so we're back in 3 minutes, so you still have time to review your notes if you want to. So basically, just click on through, and as you see me give you 3, 2, and 1 and 30, just, pace yourself and just figure out, edit as you go. And see how much time. If you do run up short, I'll ask a follow-up, but try to take the whole time.
I'm sure I've I have and will always be able to lecture ad nauseum on exactly this, but yeah, I'm hoping I can kind of set a little bit of a lexicon so that as we move forward we understand here's what we're talking about. This is what we mean when we say this. Here's what this
Okay.
agency is. Here's what that agency does. Because that's going to become eminently important when we get to okay, what do we do about this?
Okay.
Because there's down there and then there's in
Okay,
here.
so still know that in podcasts, people will listen to the whole thing. In radio, people are
Yeah.
coming and going.
Right.
So we never want to be completely redundant, but we also, if
Want to
you can say, hey, as I said in the last segment, and then give a really
Okay,
nitty
yeah.
version rather than in depth, because if people
Okay.
weren't listening,
right. They just tuned
don't
in. They
assume
didn't
context,
yeah.
because fortunately with radio, people are getting in and out of their cars constantly, and you never know. That's why I'm always, this is Ian Goldman, this is who we're talking to,
Yeah.
this is the station, because you never know where people picked up or left off.
No, I noticed that I've been on Randall several times, I've been on John Rush several times, and they'll always say so tell me again, Todd Watkins. It's like,
Right.
oh, I thought that's really weird. Why are you
No,
getting,
they call it setting the table, and it's
Yeah.
because on TV they put graphics up,
Yeah,
but we don't
you
have
don't have
that.
graphics. Yeah, it became very evident very quickly. Oh, this is formulaic. This
Yeah,
is
It is.
okay,
They call it setting the table and assuming that people are just
joining me right now.
or whatever, they were in the car, the children are screaming, they
Yeah,
missed the
yeah,
last part
yeah.
or whatever. So that's radio, and the rest of us we learn to tune out the redundancy, but it's just necessary, because if you've ever been listening to an interview and it's like really interesting and you have no idea who's talking,
Right.
it's
Yeah.
so frustrating. It's like,
Yeah.
who is this guy? And so at least every 10 minutes we gotta cycle through
Yeah.
again. Okay, I'm back in 30. Lots of craziness. Okay, back in 10. Welcome back to the Peak News, and we're talking about the border, on the border, with Todd Watkins, who spent many, many years, 24 years, as a Border Patrol agent. In the next segment, he's going to be giving us his background on that. But in this segment, Todd, we open this up and say, do an op-ed piece, do an editorial, do a rant, do a monologue, whatever's your style. And so Todd wants to set context, and this is a little mini course he's calling Border 101.
Border
Todd Watkins.
So, first of all, I want to kind of establish some lexicon so your listeners and audience understand who exactly we're talking about, the different pieces that come into play here. So we talked about Kristi Noem a little bit ago. She is the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. So that is the cabinet level position that owns all of the constabularies, the agencies, the enforcement functions that manage border security and immigration laws. Okay, so those are, hopefully I can segue into what the differences are there. So at the border is Customs and Border Protection. So that's a component within DHS. Customs, it's CBP. Everybody always gets this wrong. Even Donald Trump got it wrong. They always like to call it Customs and Border Patrol. It's Customs and Border Protection. The U.S. Border Patrol is part of Customs and Border Protection, and those guys at the ports of entry that manage the flow into and at the airports. Right, they're in the blue suits. People probably still call them U.S. Customs, but U.S. Customs ceased to exist after 9/11, so it's now all part of Customs and Border Protection. Then you have ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. That's the easiest one, because that's just a cool name, face it, right? ICE. So that they have pretty much kind of two main functional areas. There's HSI, Homeland Security Investigations, criminal investigations. They do a lot of some of the human trafficking. They do actually a lot of child porn, kiddie porn, that sort of sex trafficking, all that sort of stuff. But they also investigate the more complex smuggling organizations that are transnational from Mexico into the United States and Canada. Believe it or not, we have problems up there. So those two components are responsible for the security of our border, CBP, and immigration enforcement, enforcing immigration laws. What we're going to see play out here, if we do this, our discussions smoothly, is we're going to demonstrate that there's the problem at the border created a problem on the interior. So if you do not secure the border, you will have problems in the interior, and that's what Colorado has been feeling for the past 4 years. And sanctuary laws, how those come into and affect our ability to regulate and manage what comes in and out of the border. I would say that our nation, as any other nation, has not only a right but a responsibility to manage its borders, to secure its borders, its sovereignty, right? This is a part of national security. This is our national existence. If we do not secure our borders and do not control who and what comes in, who and what goes out even, we will cease to exist as a nation. And I would argue in a longer segment and longer piece that I think that may have been some intent here for doing what this administration did by ignoring the laws that it was obligated to uphold, and essentially ordering my agency, the U.S. Border Patrol, to stop doing its job.
So obviously, what we heard about this is impossible to do, or new laws need to be passed, or anything, and we all knew, because based on what had happened before under Trump, things seemed to be stable and working.
Yes, that's right.
But it fell apart on Inauguration Day 4 years ago.
On purpose.
Do you think that people are waking up to that from both sides, that they were lied to?
So I'm glad you brought that up. We didn't need any new laws. Congress did not need to take any action to enforce the laws that were already there. I will argue that the past administration actually violated its own laws by not doing that.
You're listening to The Peak. We're here with Todd Watkins, who spent 24 years as a border control agent. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the differences between how the border was managed before, over the past 4 years, and now. We'll be right back. Okay, this is just a 2-minute break.
Okay.
Is that good? You're happy with that?
Oh, yeah,
It was solid. Okay, we're on page 4, segment 4. So those 4 questions, so you'll have about 2.5 minutes
Sure.
for each one.
And I'm cool with doing the back and forth.
Back and forth. I mean, yeah, we
Yeah.
can, but generally it's one question and then a full
Yeah.
answer. Sometimes if you come up short, I'll do like a B, B
Yeah,
version
yeah.
follow up. I'll ask you something, but yeah, this is this is what you're used to. This is standard 12-minute interview format. Yes.
49-second intro and outro for segment 5.
Total of 49.
Mhm.
Okay, that's what I think I had. Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, that's what I had. Okay, 1 minute. Honestly, I just wish that with the new leadership in El Paso County and everything, they would just let the past go away. Like
This
stop
is
with the
not Chitty
lawsuits
County.
and stop with
This the
No,
state.
I know, but I just like,
That's
everybody's talking about we need to focus on winning, getting
not going to.
Republicans elected, and they're just continuing to just dig up stuff.
No, they elected a rather large tranche of people that are going to want to pursue this.
Welcome back to the Peak News. I'm Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to AM 1460 and FM 101.1. The Answer, the Peak. We say the quiet stuff out loud, and we invite you to help us say it even louder by becoming a citizen journalist. And we are actually starting our first official certification course for citizen journalists. It's going to start on March 3rd in the evening. We're going to run it for 4 weeks. You can get more information on that by going on our website, thepeak.news, and go to our citizen journalist page, or I believe we have it on our homepage too. We'd love to have you join us here, as we are a grassroots citizen journalist organization here, seeking to really transform the media in our region and get these stories right. Like before, I said something I had read in the media. I have someone here, Todd, who was involved in it, and he, as far as his perspective, corrected it. And that's what we can do at the local level. You can really be lied to when you can't witness the stuff, but I can't say this to Todd and have him let it go because he knows other facts. And that when we do stuff on the local level, it really clears up a lot of the ability for people to lie to us, because we know the very people who are involved in it. We can talk to them, and that's why I really love doing this. And I love that we're supported by local sponsors, and a shout out to one of our gold sponsors, Home Comfort Heating and Air, your local experts to tune up or replace your home furnace to keep you warm now and many years to come. Home Comfort, where if it's not okay, you don't pay. Give Vern a call over there at Home Comfort Heating and Air. He's a good friend of mine, and thank you, Vern, for supporting the Peak from the beginning. Well, this is Government and Politics Tuesday, and we have with us retired Border Patrol agent, former candidate for El Paso County Sheriff, and former, until just like a week ago, Vice Chair of the El Paso County Republican Party, Todd Watkins. And we're talking about the border. Todd, we're going to get into your take on what happened over the past 4 years as compared to how you saw it run pretty well. I mean, it's never it's never foolproof, right? We have gigantic borders in this country, but still, it does seem that something was strange over the past 4 years. But before we do, how did you decide to get into this branch of law enforcement and serve in it for over 2 decades?
Judge told me I had to, or I'd go to jail.
One of those.
No, so Dad was a city cop in Phoenix. So I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona. Father-in-law was a state trooper in Arizona, and so when I did a hitch in the Army, enlisted, and decided I would follow in Dad's footsteps, right? So this is back in the ancient times of the 90s, before cell phones and all that sort of thing. So the hiring process to get into law enforcement, roughly about a year then. It still kind of is. So you put in applications for a variety of places, and no kidding, Border Patrol answered first. They said, yeah, we'll take you, kid, and off I went to the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Brunswick, Georgia, or just outside of Brunswick, Georgia. And I'm glad. It's been an amazing career. Never looked back. It was kind of a godsend. I'm glad I did that instead of going maybe to one of the other state or local agencies. But I've wonderful opportunities. It's the whole country. I did things that you don't have the opportunities to do some of the stuff I did. Say if you're Colorado Springs PD or something like that. I did just about everything but ride horses.
So and all over the country. The border.
Yeah. I've been to northern border. 3 different southern border sectors. I did about 3 different tours through our national headquarters at the Reagan Building in D.C. So, and I retired. I was an assistant chief when I retired, and even military liaison to Special Operations Command at Peterson Space Force Base now. Right, it's still here. So, yeah, amazing career.
So, with all of that background, how was the border being handled for the past 20 years, and did anything change under the first Trump administration? What happened during the Biden administration, and how do you see things shifting now?
So, by and large, the Border Patrol has always managed that border kind of the
Talking
same.
the southern border.
Yeah, the southern border. Well, and the northern border too. It's the only thing that really changed over the last 100 years. The Border Patrol was stood up on May 28th, 1924, and it was the same sort of mechanism. You go look for the incursions, and you pursue the incursions, you chase them down, right? It's a lot of manpower. You need a lot of infrastructure. So what really evolved over time was our capabilities, right? The technology, more roads, better vehicles, aircraft, cameras,
Now we got
sensors.
drones, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, and then I worked with those predators. Those things are awesome. Um, so it's always been in evolving technological capabilities, right? There's always been manpower intensive. We've always, we always say, hey, we need more manpower. We need more manpower. There's not a police agency on earth that says that, no, we're good. We don't need any more people. No, we always need more people. So what happened with Biden? Oh, and in the wall, everybody talks about the wall. So that's a good thing to have, the infrastructure, the barriers. But what we saw was people say it's a policy failure. No, failures mean you tried and didn't succeed. That was deliberate. So that was all policy. That was 100% policy. Biden allowed people to come in. Mayorkas was paroling all these people into the country who had no right to be here, who were here illegally still, and invited basically the rest of the world to displace into the United States. There was no consequence for illegal entry. It was invited, it was welcomed, it was encouraged, and I never in my career saw illegal aliens stack up in queue at the fence waiting for Border Patrol to come pick them up to process them as an arrest, and because they knew that they would be released.
What was the procedure when you were working?
They were detained and within days returned to their.
So just pushed over the border,
Yeah.
or dropped off.
Yeah,
the
yeah.
border and pushed over.
Yeah, so, and here's an important distinction. When somebody illegally enters the country, there's actually two legal pathways that are opened up. There's the administrative civil part, which is the immigration, the deportation. Deportation is a civil act, that is a civil process. And then there's the criminal for entry without inspection. It was during the Bush administration, the second Bush Jr., 43, where we actually started seeing federal prosecutors taking those illegal entry criminal charges, and everybody was pretty much convicted of those, and then summarily removed from the country back to their native land. But that was all suspended under Biden, and they're released into the country totally illegally, completely illegally.
So how has that impacted us in the region? How is that, we're now a border state in
Yeah.
Colorado.
That's right.
We know, everybody heard about the Aurora gangs.
Yeah.
And it's coming out that in Aurora they knew about this a year ago. We actually here at the Peak knew about it about a month before it became national, and there was still a lot of denial from everything. But now that everything is really sort of coming out, what can we say? How has this impacted the quality of life for the citizens here in the Pikes Peak region?
You've brought in a population, a very large population. I don't know that we'll ever really know how large this population is that came in. You were alluding to it, or was it 10 million? Was it 15 million? Was it 20 million? Do we really know? The answer is, I don't think so. So these are people who, first of all, it burdens the infrastructure of these urban areas. This population they're not picking apples, they're not working in the ag fields, they're dependent on public support. So it's a huge burden on the economy and the tax funding of these local communities, states and cities. And I would also say that because Colorado passed sanctuary laws, it invited even more of it. I think you're going to find that most of these illegal populations are going to be in these cities and towns that do have sanctuary laws, and we can talk about that later if you want to bring it back up, of how illegal those laws are.
Well, we're running out of time. We only have about a minute and a half left. So there was non-cooperation with ICE.
Mhm.
Talk about that real quick.
So I don't know that you could find a legal footing to say that local police must actively assist federal authorities. I can tolerate that I think that's just a really bad way to do business for law enforcement, to ignore your brethren who are carrying out lawful orders. But you absolutely cannot impede or diminish their effectiveness. So you can't get in the way of them. It is horribly wrong for a state to pass laws to tie a sheriff or a police chief's hands on cooperating with federal partners. They have to maintain those types of relationships in order to do their jobs. Local law enforcement relies on feds as much as feds rely on local law enforcement to enforce, lawfully enacted statutes.
So we have about a minute left now with the new Trump administration, Tom Holman, and all of this. How do you think things should be handled here in Colorado? What should we do in order to solve the issue?
So the Trump told the Border Patrol to go back to work, and the Border Patrol went back to work, and 95% decrease in the illegal flow coming across the southern border. 226 arrests the other day for the whole southwest border. I mean, that's a record. That is a record in the 100-year history of the Border Patrol. So now we have to start moving the illegal population out. So Christy Nome, that announcement, I'm sure, was coached by Tom Homan, who knows absolutely what he's doing. And we're going to start making it difficult to live here illegally, encourage people to leave on their own, and if not, it's going to be a long road to start removing it.
Okay, well, we're just starting to scratch the surface
Yep.
on this issue here, but at least things seem to be going in a positive direction regarding many fewer coming into
Yes.
the country, and so that the ICE and other organizations can do their job. You can check out the website cpb.gov and ice.gov for more information. Todd Watkins, thanks so much for being on the Peak.
Thank you.
When we come back, we have comments from Sheriff Roybal on how he is seeking to cooperate with ICE as our local sheriff in El Paso County. Okay. That is, you're welcome to stay, but you're done.
Yeah, I'll
Okay. I need to.
This all plays into that larger picture, so.
I forgot to put this on.
For like the other one,
Yeah.
for now.
Yeah, I know.
You have to have it down.
Yeah, do you know
The
that it'll
music
kick out with even just a few? Let me just
That's
hit
what,
it.
that's what I've seen on certain songs, like Rock This Town especially, and Dirty Laundry.
That it got flagged.
Yeah. No, I think that was in some other countries, so.
Oh, wait a minute. So. I wonder.
I won't so happy.
I don't.
It's just more of a hassle.
Colorado. That's John Graham Homes, Colorado. John Graham Homes, taking the drama out of your home selling experience while
Yeah, this needs to come up about half.
Yeah. Listening, it's actually more than half was best for
Okay, well, you do what you need to do. I'm looking at levels on there, but that's gonna need to come up right away because I'm gonna be introducing the Roybal clip. So,
Okay, that's fine. Is there time you want to do the photo now? We can do it later.
What do we have for 12? Yeah, I guess we can do a photo.
Photo time.
Hey, Todd, gonna do a photo?
Photo toy. Something's wrong with my camera. Okay. It's being blurry. I tried to rub it, and then that ruined it. What's going on? I don't know. I'm gonna have to go out and clean it better. There we go. All right, ready? 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, smile.
Hey, Zach, could you see, is that wire is that getting in the video shot?
No,
You sure?
it's coming over this way. No,
No?
I don't see it at all. No.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, sorry, things go by fast.
Yeah, right?
With radio, you gotta, there's not a lot of time for meandering. Just gotta get into the answer now.
Roybal, not Roybal. Yeah, Roybal first and then Jim?
Yeah.
Okay.
Welcome back to the Peak News. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman, and we're talking about the border. And as part of this program, we had scheduled to have El Paso County Sheriff Joe Roybal on the program as a call-in, but he's up in Denver and he's not able to join us. But this morning, he was at the Road the Road Church at the men's breakfast, and he gave comments regarding cooperating with ICE. And so let's go to that clip of Sheriff Joe Roybal.
And then after this clip ends, do you want me to go straight to Jim, or do you want me
No,
to...
there's 10 seconds.
Okay.
I have 10 seconds.
Cool. Is this on?
No.
With the immigration, agree with some of the drug laws. And we were able to influence the county sheriffs of Colorado to agree on the immigration bill. Some of them didn't. So along with Sheriff Jason Mikesell in Teller County, we formed a coalition last year. Coalition of sheriffs separate from the rest of the sheriffs of Colorado to try to influence people and send our message. We've done that again this year. CLU sent out the letter threatening to sue all the sheriffs if we work with ICE. Now let's talk about this. Colorado has says it is illegal for you, sheriff, to contract with ICE. Oh, and by the way, probation officers cannot work with ICE. Now they're state. They can't communicate with ICE if it's an illegal. What does that say? So they're on probation because they committed a crime, and they commit another crime and violated probation and parole, but they're not allowed to tell ICE. That's not only is it a sanctuary state, it's a sanctuary for criminals in that case, because criminals are accountable to probation and parole, but the state says they can't talk to ICE. That's what this state is doing. And that's where my influence representing you comes in, because I know that's wrong. And so when the ACLU sent that letter, they're a bully. We send it out through the media, all our social media channels, to say, listen, here's what the ACLU is doing. They're threatening to sue us if we work with ICE. I'm bringing back the 287G program, which is basically ICE agents. I have TFOs. My task force officers are allowed to work with ICE. I made it public. I said, you can work with ICE. You can work with immigration, just like they work with the DEA, the ATF, and the FBI. Now we're working with ICE. We weren't doing that for years. Now, to be compliant with the law, because we are a system of rule here, I cannot house these people strictly on an ICE detainer, but I can hold them on a criminal offense. And guess what I do? We let ICE know that they're here, that we have them. I met with ICE 2 weeks ago, and they assured me that El Paso County would be their priority in the state of Colorado. Isn't that awesome?
How can you support Mayor Yimmy's declaration that basically all illegals are welcome in Colorado Springs if they've not committed a crime? Can you challenge his policy?
I always say, hey, ask the question, how many people know who my boss is? And I get the mayor's my boss. I get the commissioners are my boss. I get city council's my boss. But I have a lot of bosses. Truth of the matter is, none of them are my boss. I'm an elected official, but who is my boss? Yes, you are my boss, and you all know who I answer to. Now, the city of Colorado Springs, I have no direct influence with their policies. I observe the law, maintain peace, and unincorporate El Paso County. Colorado Springs is its own government. So the legislature in this state, we are a sanctuary state, make no mistake about it. They are worried about us deporting immigrants and breaking up families. There's even rumors that I will send my deputies into elementary schools and take kids from schools. That's not true. So to make this, to get our foot in the door, to be able to combat this immigration problem we have, we're focused on the criminals. Because who in their right mind is going to say, if somebody's committed a crime against the citizens of El Paso County and the state, they should stay here? Well, guess what? Some of them are saying that. So I am going after criminals, and I want to focus on that because that is the only possible way we start to get these bad policies reversed. So the policy on the mayor, I'm focusing on the criminals. Now, Colorado Springs Police, they are governed by the mayor. They have their own policies. I support all law